to combat foreign cyber attacks.
6 months after devastating bushfires tore through Mallacoota, the town's spirit shines on.
And we check in with comedian Ross Noble, who's spicing up coronavirus. This is The Project.
Good evening, welcome to The Project, where tonight we welcome the virtual presence of Dr. Chris Brown.
Guys, how are you?
Well, bloody hell, what a day.
Yeah. It feels weird because it feels like this is the day we've been dreading.
Yeah.
But it feels like this needs to happen.
Yeah.
As far as the borders closing and the suburban shutdowns in Victoria.
Does it symbolise something?
Well, this symbolises everybody's greatest fear, and I think every other state outside of Victoria feels like there but for the grace of God go us. And it can happen so easily. And I think a good reminder to everybody how quickly this can all happen.
So, Brownie, I want to ask you this, like, what we're talking about is suburbs in Victoria, 10 of them, going back into lockdown. Was that something that you comprehended intellectually but not emotionally? Or is it even beyond that?
Look, I think it was always talked about, wasn't it? And you see so many other countries that have gone into that second wave scenario. But, you know, obviously spent a lot of time around Sydney, and I've really noticed over the last couple of weeks the handshakes have returned, the high fives, the hugging, a lot of man hugging is back, worryingly. And so it's probably the reminder, if there is a silver lining here, it's the reminder we probably needed that we're not through this. So it's a bit of a wake-up call. And I think, as Lisa mentioned there, I think people around Sydney and probably around the rest of the country are thinking, you know, thank God it's not us, but let's hope it stays that way.
Well, we'll look at this issue more a bit later in the show. There's another dimension to what happened today, because with Melbourne struggling to get its COVID-19 cases under control, Queensland is set to reopen its borders to all states and territories from next Friday, except Victoria.
Let me state from the outset, Queensland has large concerns about the state of Victoria.
We have 2,159 cases of coronavirus in Victoria. That's 64 more than yesterday.
They've had more than 6 times the number of cases where the source of the infection could not be identified than we have had.
So, due to the current community transmission levels, the border with Victoria will remain closed and will be strengthened.
Our message to Queenslanders is please do not go there. Our message to Victorians is please do not come here.
14 days in double digits. Victoria is out in the cold. Bad enough for South Australia to also hit pause.
At this stage, we cannot possibly lift that border on the 20th of July as we were hoping to do. We have worked so hard to get ourselves into a very enviable position, and we're not prepared to go backwards.
New South Wales also doubled down.
Do not allow anyone from a hotspot in Melbourne or from Greater Melbourne to come into your home. You have the right to say no.
In Queensland, it'll be a mandatory 14-day quarantine for any Victorians visiting, who'll also have to foot their own bill, while all other states and territories will be welcome to the Sunshine State from July 10. And it's more bad news for the AFL.
Any teams coming in from Victoria to South Australia will have to do that 2 weeks of isolation.
Certainly, I appreciate the cooperation all the codes have shown the New South Wales Government in ensuring that tickets are not sold to Victorians.
As Melbourne numbers grow, Australia is slowly opening a travel bubble, one with a Victoria-shaped hole right in the middle.
There's a message here on Facebook from Nelson. He says, I'm in Melbourne and I support other states keeping borders restricted. Besides, if cross-border travel is essential, it is still allowed, so there is some wiggle room there. I'd expect nothing less if the situation was reversed. I think everybody is empathetic to what everyone else is going through at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's probably the right move, to be honest.
Is it, we've had this discussion. I want to ask you, because I haven't asked you this before. Is it time for Gladys Berejiklian to shut the border? Like, I don't get the point in jumping up and down about it and not implementing a policy on it.
I think she's trying to have an each-way bet at the moment. I think that's where she's coming from. She would be one of the happiest people knowing that the Queensland border will be open from July 10, because she's been saying all along that she wants that to happen. And I'd imagine Scott Morrison is thrilled that that's happening, because that's going to really open up the economy.
Sure, but at the same time, the message you get from this is Queensland saying, no, we won't have anyone from Victoria, means that if that spike emerges in Sydney, then that border just goes straight up again, as far as New South Wales is concerned.
Well, I think all politicians know that they've got to be nimble right now, but I don't understand why the lockdown isn't going to happen tonight and not tomorrow night.
In Melbourne, you mean?
In Melbourne.
Yeah.
It's almost giving people an opportunity to organise to, you know, live somewhere else for the next few weeks or few months.
Get into New South Wales now and then you can get to Queensland.
That's it. But your schoolies' holidays been cancelled? Confirming?
Yeah, my annual trip is in jeopardy, yeah.
Okay. Now, this man was at a drive-through testing site in Victoria. Good on you, mate. Luckily, this journo knew exactly what to say.
Yep. Have you had a test before?
No, never, so a little bit nervous about it.
Yeah. It's not very comfortable, but...
Thanks for that.
I mean, it's a good question, but terrible bedside manner.
Yeah.
All right, time for a break. See you on the other side.
Coming up, fears over a new flu emerging from China. Does it have the potential to trigger another pandemic? And the EU greenlights Aussie travellers in a list of COVID-safe countries. But when will our borders open up to let us fly? You're watching The Project. Welcome back to The Project.
Well, scientists in China have reportedly discovered a new type of swine flu. According to a US science journal, the flu known as G4 has already infected around 10% of China's swine workers. While it has the potential to cause another pandemic, there's no evidence it can be passed from human to human yet. And Beijing has imposed sweeping new laws allowing authorities to crack down on dissent in Hong Kong after months of pro-democracy protests. The unanimous vote comes one day before the anniversary of Hong Kong's handover to China. It's feared the move could trigger more unrest and more tension with Western countries.
Emily Lau is a former chairperson of the Democratic Party in Hong Kong. She joins us now. Emily, these new laws apparently tackle separatism, subversion and terrorism. What does that mean for the people of Hong Kong?
Well, actually, I don't think anyone here has seen the text of the law. So we don't know how those offences are defined. And actually, I'm talking to you from a very frightened and very angry city. How can the central government, the Communist Party, pass a law on Hong Kong people without showing us the text of the law, let alone consulting us? I think this whole thing is so ridiculous. That's why the people, some of them are hopping mad. Others, of course, are very frightened.
Is there anything that the government in Hong Kong, the local parliament there, can do in response to this?
Legislators try to ask some urgent questions. They want to move an urgent debate, but they were all ruled out of order by the Speaker. So the legislature has no say, and now Beijing is going to pass the law, and that's it. That's the end. And the government official, the Chief Executive Carrie Lam and her officials kept coming out to support the law, although they themselves have not seen it.
Emily, there's another 27 years until full handover happens. So does that mean that the government in Hong Kong is really going to be useless?
The communist government promised us that we will preserve our free lifestyle, the rule of law, personal safety and all that for 50 years until 2047. And you are right to say now it's only 2020, but it seems 2047 is here already. And the people are very anxious that all these freedoms, personal safety will disappear very soon. And it will be one country, one system. And we will be just like the people of mainland China, have no human rights and not protected by the rule of law.
Now, Emily, it's very clear to hear, we can all hear your passion and your dismay over this. Is the next step another fresh wave of protests? Is that what you're seeing is going to happen here?
Well, I mean, tomorrow is July 1st. It is the anniversary of the handing over by Britain to China. But I think people will still turn out to march tomorrow. But of course, that would be grave danger because it would be an illegal assembly. And those people, many people, could be arrested. And maybe some of them would be, like in the past, very badly beaten up by the police. And so there could be very chaotic scenes tomorrow. And now that the national security law will come into force in a few hours, if it has not done so already, they may even use the new weapon to go against the protesters. And I certainly don't want to see a lot of violence and a lot of injury or even rivers of blood flowing in Hong Kong.
I think these questions are going to be asked very urgently over the coming months on the streets, Emily. Thank you very much for speaking to us tonight.
Thank you.
Well, here's some more news on what's happening around the world. The World Health Organization has issued a dire warning in the fight against COVID-19.
The worst is yet to come. Although many countries have made some progress, globally, the pandemic is actually speeding up.
The WHO chief says contact tracing is a must, and so is learning more about how the virus started.
We will be sending a team next week to China.
While some of our state borders remain shut, Europe's ready to let us in. The EU's about to allow visitors from 14 countries, including Australia. New Zealand, Canada and Japan are also on the list, but the US, Brazil and China are out for now. Meanwhile, Greece is opening up to tourists, with the first foreign plane touching down in a regional airport for an island getaway. And the Tour de France usually features the picturesque French countryside and cheering fans, but that's still off the table. Instead, the 116-year-old race is going virtual. The online racing platform Zwift will host it, with many of the same riders who've been on the road. It'll broadcast to 130 countries, raising money for 5 global charities, and will be the first time men's and women's events are held together.
Guys, I'm all down for this virtual Tour de France on one condition, that those guys who run alongside the runners are given virtual treadmills to make sure they can really get in the face of those virtual cyclists.
And an excellent point.
A lot of these athletes haven't competed for a while, but if you're watching, I'll just remind you, it's like riding a bike.
Yeah, almost exactly. We're off to a break. More projects still to come.
Welcome back. This is The Project.
In late December of last year, a lightning strike started a fire on the far east coast of Victoria. It spread, and on the morning of New Year's Eve, it hit the coastal town of Malakuta. Now, 6 months later, many are still struggling to rebuild their lives.
It's early morning, December the 31st, 2019. The approaching smoke darkens the skies above Malakuta.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning and you can't see a thing.
Pitch black, there's embers falling from the sky.
The temperature is 49 degrees, with winds gusting up to 80 kilometres an hour.
It was so scary. I don't think I've ever been that scared in my whole entire life.
Imagine the most brilliant sunset that you've ever seen, with flaming embers kind of shooting through the sky like a meteorite, I guess.
With the main road in and out of town closed off, trapped locals head to the community centre and the beach. The CFA forms a ring to keep them safe.
We've got 4,000 people on the beach there that are being very well protected by our firefighters.
Some locals head out on boats to escape the heat.
Behind me is Malakuta.
My sister waited the front out on the boat and she said it was just so dark and all you could just hear this really weird, eerie noise.
Malakuta is currently under attack at the moment. There's a number of houses we believe is lost.
It's chaos. I've never seen anything like it.
This smoke haze that has descended on Malakuta is extraordinary. You can feel it in your eyes, you can feel it in your lungs.
In coming days, the military launches an unprecedented rescue operation, evacuating around 1,700 people and their pets by air and sea.
The sky has cleared today and families are able to evacuate.
And the devastation becomes clear, with around 120 structures destroyed, including at least 100 homes.
All of my possessions have been totally incinerated. There is just simply nothing left, nothing at all.
Nan's house, our house. I do feel for people like my grandparents who they were there for 40 plus years. They've had memories in that home, photos. I did cry when I got there, but then I kind of just tried to pull it together.
Immediately, the community spirit of Malakuta kicks in.
It's part of me. Yeah, and this will be, this will really show what we're like.
everyone will pull together.
Now, 6 months on, locals have had time to process the days they experienced hell on earth.
We're laughing about certain things someday and then the next day we're crying about the exact same thing. So I think it's nice to see people being able to come to terms and process what's happened.
I don't think it will ever return to normal. This whole experience is something that's going to be in the back of everybody's mind. It's going to be a part of the landscape forever, but we can definitely work towards creating something better for our community, for sure.
Joining us now is Malakuta resident Jan Gilbert, who you saw in that package. Jan lost her house in the New Year's Eve bushfires. Jan, how's life been for you over the past 6 months?
Oh, in one word, traumatic. I don't think there's anything... It's just been a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, it's hard to describe how you feel when a major part of your life has just been wiped away. But I think, you know, the most traumatic part for me as a scientist was seeing the devastation on wildlife.
I believe, Jan, that the remains of your house were recently cleared away. I can only imagine how painful that is. How did you go through that day? Did you stay there for that process, or was it just too difficult to face?
I did want it cleared away because where I've been staying in temporary accommodation, I've had to drive past it every day for almost 6 months. But the whole idea of, you know, a whole part of your life being swept away, there's a relief that it's gone and now I can start building. But it's also that real reinforcement of all of those things, that part of my life, those parts of my life have gone.
Jan, you very generously mentioned the fact that so much of your concern has been around your local community and the local environment. Are you starting to see some signs of recovery there in when you are in that local area?
I guess so. I mean, the bush has come... Some parts of the bush have come back. There's still swathes of it that haven't recovered, particularly down the coast where there were large Melaleuca forests. And, I mean, it was regular in Malakuta to see kangaroos, koalas, all sorts of things, you know, going down the main street. And I think everyone's noticed, you know, the impact it's had. And I think our recovery is probably progressing as, you know, almost as fast as it can. But for wildlife, how they recover and if they recover is actually what I'm more interested in.
Jan, there's no doubt it's been a terrible first 6 months of 2020. What's the one thing that needs to happen to put a smile on your face and provide a bit of hope for the Malakuta area?
Well, not just for Malakuta, but, you know, for Australians and globally, we need to take real action on climate change. None of this pussyfooting around, none of this let's go to gas, none of this let's keep coal buddies in our pockets. There's a great way to change the political landscape in Australia, and that's get rid of political party donations, because you can't expect someone to give your party $1 million and not want anything for it. And I'm quite frankly tired of the environmental destruction that is caused by a lack of action from both major political parties. You know, where is the transition plan to get out of fossil fuels and into renewable energies? We don't have to keep digging things out of the ground.
Jan, it's really good to hear your passion and really moving to hear the way you talk about your concern for wildlife as well in the situation, given everything you have been through. Thank you very much for your words tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'll be back with more Project after this.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us on The Project, Chris Brown is with us tonight.
Well, to the big story of the day, and large swathes of suburban Melbourne have been thrust back into stage 3 lockdown in a desperate bid to combat Victoria's COVID-19 spike.
First of all, we have 2,159 cases of coronavirus in Victoria. That's 64 more than yesterday, 17,416 tests.
Then, what many Melburnians were waiting for.
Now, because of the unacceptably high rates of community transmission, the following postcodes from 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night will be the subject to the stay-at-home order. with only 4 permitted reasons to leave your home. 3012, 3021, 3032, 3038, 3042, 3046, 3047, 3055, 3060 and 3064.
More than 340,000 Melburnians forced to stay home to beat COVID-19.
There have been some 233 new cases of coronavirus since last Thursday, since that testing blitz began. That is an unacceptably high number and one that poses a real threat to all of us.
Disappointingly, 928 people from 2 hotspot suburbs alone refused to be tested.
Now, I can't change that. That's happened. All I can do is encourage those people come forward and get tested today.
And other Melbourne residents told to stay out of these hotspots.
Many of the main transport corridors in and out of these suburbs will be the subject of booze bus type checks.
And the new orders will be enforced.
Victoria Police will be actively enforcing these suburban lockdowns, and if you are out of your home for anything other than a permitted reason, then financial penalties apply, on-the-spot fines apply.
The Premier citing links between these hotspot spikes.
At least a significant number, and potentially more, of the outbreaks in the north of the city are attributable via genomic sequencing to staff members in hotel quarantine breaching well-known and well-understood infection control protocols.
And return travellers for now will head elsewhere.
I would like to divert all flights away from Melbourne for the next 2 weeks. I'll have conversations with other state leaders to explain that and to thank them in advance of the extra load that they will carry.
It's a desperate and comprehensive bid to stamp out any resurgence of this deadly disease.
I just have to emphasise that there is no plan B here.
This is what we must do now. If we do not do this now, then I won't be locking down 10 postcodes. I will be locking down all postcodes.
World Health Organisation advisor Mary Louise McLaws joins us now to break down the looming lockdown. Now, Mary Louise, 10 postcodes in Victoria are going to be locked down as of midnight tomorrow night, but we know that there are cases outside of those postcodes. So is 10 enough?
10's a lot. And I'm very pleased that they're doing at least 10, but I would have gone for the very hot and the lukewarm as well, because you may as well, people are going to feel pain, and if they're sharing the pain, they'll feel a little better. And certainly ring fencing is fairly unpleasant, particularly when others are thinking that everyone else is roaming free while they're at home. But it's really essential that they try to get hold of this runaway epidemic curve right now.
If this is so urgent, as it appears to be, why isn't the lockdown happening at midnight tonight?
Also, why isn't the lockdown making sure that people can't go to work? Leaving to go to work means potentially that you can move for 8 hours while you're at work your infection. Usually ring fencing means you're staying within that area. You can come and go out of your house as long as you wear a mask, but you're within that confined area. Now, even if you're an essential service, normally you would interpret that as if you have to go to work, such as a hospital or, let's say, a fire brigade, a fiery, you might need to wear a mask all day long because your seroprevalence status will be unknown. We won't know whether you're positive or negative. So letting somebody leave if they can't work from home is a bit like letting the virus escape.
As I understand it, though, Mary Louise, they haven't gone for ring fencing really at all. They've gone for a lockdown, which in a weird way is more liberal because it allows people to go to work, as you've said. Why do you think they've gone for that option?
I'm not sure, because an outbreak manager or investigator probably would have chosen ring fencing at least a week ago. When you have a look at the 14-day rolling average, the previous 14 days, the average was about 79. This average is 383. So, you know, this disease takes any opportunity that you give it, and it takes behaviour, and it walks with the person when they leave that area that has been locked down. So I'm not sure why they've chosen this ring fence light or this lockdown instead of doing it hard. But sadly, well, I'm hoping that they're right and I'm wrong, and that it will work. Otherwise, it's full lockdown for the whole state.
More than 900 people in these two of these main hotspot areas, Mary Louise, have refused to be tested. Dan Andrews says he's not going to make it compulsory. Is that a mistake?
I think it needs to be compulsory, particularly as the Doherty Institute have developed a fantastic non-invasive test, the saliva test. It only has a small drop in accuracy than a diagnostic test, but it's absolutely perfect for screening. And I'm a bit perplexed about why people wouldn't do it, given that you'd be looked after. Yes, you'd have to stay at home, but you should be staying at home under this ring fencing, and also that you're helping the rest of your family as well. Because if you test positive and you can't keep your distance within that family cluster, you potentially need to be moved out. And that's what they might be frightened of. But of course, it's for the best interest of your family and your community. So I think they need to be rethinking this again. And perhaps if they're asked a second or a third time, they might actually get it.
All right, Mary Louise, really appreciate your insight. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure. I hope I don't have to join you again.
That would be wonderful. We love your lounge room, but we've seen way too much of it over the last couple of months. Thanks a lot.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Gee, this is exactly what we all feared, isn't it? That we'd have a little bit of freedom and then we'd all have to pull back again. You've got to feel for all those businesses and workers in cafes, restaurants in these postcodes, gyms, libraries. They've all got to close down again, just as everybody's got back there again.
Yeah, and shutting down and ramping up. I've heard business owners say that's harder than if they just stayed shut.
Yeah.
Because the start-up costs, you might have food that you've bought to sell to customers you can't use anymore.
Yep.
But this is the day, like I've kind of always had this sense, but it really hit me today, that we could be just living this kind of on-off pattern like for years.
Yeah.
This is, in the absence of a vaccine, this is we have. So if it's not your postcode today, over the course of however many years, there's every chance it becomes your postcode at some point. That's just the nature of the virus.
Do you understand why people are refusing to be tested? I can't get my head around it. Like, you know, we've all had this thing of we're all in it together, and maybe I'm missing something.
The only thing I can think of is if it's kids mostly.
I can understand kids, but now they've got the new test now, which would help. Easier. But...
And maybe now they're in lockdown, they'll be more likely to do it.
Let's hope so. All right, to more news now. And as of July 10, Queensland's borders are open to all states and territories except Victoria, with anyone arriving from that state told to quarantine for 2 weeks at their own expense. The Queensland government says the measures are in place until Victoria's community transmission goes down.
Our message to Queenslanders is please do not go there. Our message to Victorians is please do not come here.
Koalas in New South Wales will be extinct before 2050 without urgent government intervention. That's the finding of a year-long state parliamentary study which says koala habitats were being destroyed even before the bushfire crisis.
And I think the interesting thing here is that I'm almost surprised it's not earlier. I think the situation is that dire with the koala population. You know, it was bad before the fires. Now it is significantly worse. And you look at the breeding that's required to lift those numbers up. The koala breeding season starts in a month's time. And it's really indicative of the challenge here. Now, the coastal bushland areas where koalas are meant to breed have been restricted to really narrow corridors, whereas it used to be wide expanses. So it's hard for the male to give out his booming call and actually attract females in. And even if they do breed successfully, if a fire comes through, there's nowhere for them to go because of that narrow tract. There's no escape. And that's what's really put them in this situation in the first place. Lack of habitat and lack of places to go and lack of places to breed.
You need to get that koala Tinder up and running like you've always talked about, Brownie.
There would be a market, trust me.
I don't know what that means, Pete.
No, I'll move on. Over to the US now, where the Travellers Championship golf tournament just wrapped up, and Aussie Greg Chalmers let it rip on the first hole, and so too did his playing partner Ian Poulter. I'm not sure who had the better follow-through, Chalmers or Poulter there. They both really had a bit of follow-through.
We are off to a break. More projects soon. Peter.
Coming up, how do we stop vulnerable Aussies from being scammed out of their life savings? And what sent comedian Ross Noble straight back into his ISO bunker? This is The Project.
Welcome back to The Project, where it's a big week for Brownie because, of course, the living room returns this Friday, mate, and I understand it's had a reno. What's going on?
It has, Waleed. I don't know if you've seen the promos. I think it's only been run once or twice during MasterChef over the last month or so. We've been moving in with our couch into new surroundings, into new digs, and I guess trying to cope with the post-COVID life. And it's different this time, where we're actually working in each other's lanes. So you'll see me doing a bit of DIY. You'll see Miguel helping out around. We'll be doing a bit of cooking, and look, but it's all the same fun that you're used to with the Friday night gang back together.
I've always loved the living room, Brownie. My only criticism was we only stored the living room, so there will be new rooms. Yeah.
I can promise you bathrooms. I can promise you bedrooms.
Oh. Hello.
He had a little twinkle when he said that.
Everyone's ears just pricked up right there. And of course, it'll be on straight after the Friday Project this Friday. Well, 2 weeks ago, a massive wave of cyber attacks highlighted Australia's vulnerability to malicious foreign agents. Today, the federal government's made an unprecedented commitment to shoring up our defences.
Australian organisations are currently being targeted by a sophisticated state-based cyber actor.
That attack was just the latest in a series that's been
increasing in frequency, in scale, and also in sophistication.
Now the government's returning fire with
the largest single investment in cybersecurity in our nation's history.
That's $748 million, rising to $1.35 billion over a decade, to deliver real-time intel sharing, beefed up threat detection, increased offensive firepower, and to recruit more than 500 new cyber spies.
It's important that we've got the people and we've got the platforms to be able to combat these very serious and growing threats.
But with much of the money coming straight from the defence budget and $500 million still unallocated, Labor reckons it's too much cloak, not enough dagger.
It's not entirely clear how much of this is new money. Where is this funding coming from? And the government says, we'll tell you later when we deliver our cybersecurity strategy.
Tensions are rising and COVID's left our online networks more vulnerable than ever. So is this the great Aussie firewall we need?
Fergus Hansen's with the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, and he joins us now. So, Fergus, what do you make of all this?
Well, I think what's really amazing about today's announcement is at a time when you expect them to be cutting cybersecurity expenditure, they're massively ramping it up. The big question, of course, is whether this is in the forward estimates or whether it's imaginary money that sits beyond that. But if you look at that number and take it on face value and say, well, the last strategy had $230 million over 4 years, this is a much bigger increase. But there's also another, $600 million that hasn't been disclosed yet. What's that for? And that's going to be coming out, I think, with the new national cybersecurity strategy.
Fergus, given the military-like spending on this, is it fair to say that we're now entering a digital Cold War, if you will? And if so, who's the enemy here?
Well, I think we're not quite in a Cold War situation, but I think what is really interesting is this sort of grey zone type of conflict where there's disinformation and misinformation campaigns and espionage activity being conducted by cyber means. It'd be crazy for Australia not to be both defending itself and being more active as well in its capability development.
So, Fergus, if we're getting 500 new spies, what are they going to be doing?
So there's lots of different things, but I think the main part will be the key mission of ASD, which is stealing other countries' secrets and protecting our own.
So I get the idea, but it seems like we're now in a bidding war for the best cyber hacking talent, basically. Does government really have the ability to attract the best in that field?
ASD is fantastic at training up the best talent in Australia, but as it's really difficult, I think, to retain that talent when the private sector can offer them much more lucrative salaries. What I think ASD can offer is the ability to conduct the type of operations that you just can't conduct legally in any other environment. Hacking for the Australian government, so it's a very special role, but it's maybe not the best paid role.
There's a guy who runs Pete's dark web account. Would he be the kind of, I think he might be interested. Is that the kind of guy you might recruit? Is he available?
It's actually Fergus. You got busted, Fergus. You better wrap this one up.
I think we should wrap it up. Fergus, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No denial. Wow.
Should have pixelated his face. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We're off to a break. More projects still to come.
Microscopic cog in his catastrophic plan designed.
Welcome back to The Project. What would you do if you realised your retired mum or dad had been conned out of their life savings? It sounds like a nightmare, but it's a horrible reality for the thousands of Aussies getting ripped off every year by online romance scammers.
There is no doubt it was a game being played very well, and I was drawn in beautifully to the seduction.
In March, Ma Yun was sucked into a romance scam that's left her almost destitute.
That was my future gone. Yeah, that was my future, that was my savings.
Ma Yun's son, Marcel, is a Sydney-based comedian, but these days he's deadly serious about getting some of his mum's money back.
Initially, Mum thought she might have lost 50, 70K. I looked back through her bank records and it was closer to $100,000, and I was gobsmacked.
Ma Yun's a retired nurse and she rents this small home on her own. At the start of 2020, she decided she'd try to find a companion.
There are challenges for people of my age to get to know others who might be single, so I thought I'd try the online dating.
Soon, she met Kyle. At least that's what he called himself.
I liked his photo, he was charismatic, and I believed that the generous person that was depicted would be a perfect partner.
Kyle told Ma Yun that, like her, he was from Adelaide. And after years of travelling the world for business, he was ready to come home.
Morning, my beautiful one. I want to grow old with you, my queen.
Everything was very seductive, an ideal picture he had painted for me.
He showed her faked flight tickets saying he was coming home any day. All the while, Kyle was laying it on thick.
I have been wanting to be with someone so special, just like yourself.
It wasn't long before Ma Yun was being pushed to send money and iPhones to South Africa and Ghana, all while being told to keep the budding romance a secret.
I do not want your family to know this. Can you buy phones with the American Express?
Bit by bit, Ma Yun sent $78,000 in cash transfers and Bitcoin to Kyle, all withdrawn from her account at the NAB, and 18 grand in iPhones and gift cards. Almost $100,000, the entire savings and superannuation of a retired nurse.
My mum is so wise, she's street smart, she knows what's what, but this sort of scam just preys on someone with a generous spirit and someone who's keen to find companionship.
Jan Marshall was hit with one of these scams in 2012, and now she helps other victims recover.
There's a process called love bombing, which is actually the grooming of the victim. So initially they want people to fall in love with them because they know when somebody is in that state, they've got them under their control.
Around 4,000 Aussies got hit by these rip-off merchants last year, and they lost more than $28 million.
It's not just an individual who's making their victim feel special. It's a whole team of people that are geared up, trained and practicing to scam somebody in order to get their money.
And because the scammers are generally overseas, it's really hard to get help from our authorities.
We went to the police and the police said, oh, it's international, it's out of our jurisdiction.
So Marcel and his mum have had to investigate the scam themselves and work out a way to help Ma Yun support herself.
I didn't want to tell anybody of this. I could not believe that I had found myself so destitute.
They know their appeal won't replace Ma Yun's life savings. So now they're taking the fight to the top end of town.
She's been a customer of National Australia Bank for over 20 years, but they still didn't see transfers of thousands of dollars as anything out of the ordinary. No scam expert required to see that this person has sent over $30,000 a few weeks ago and is now withdrawing $45,000. Maybe something's happening here.
The NAB has met with Marcel and his mum, but they're not budging.
They said we wouldn't want it to be the Spanish Inquisition to ask every customer what are those funds for and to follow up any other questions.
American Express won't even meet with them. The 17 grand worth of iPhones and vouchers were bought and shipped using Ma Yun's Amex card.
Amex has no sympathy for her situation. There's no outreach there. It's just, we're not liable. No, we can't offer any help. The end.
Marcel and Ma-Yuen don't just want compensation. They want better protection from this growing form of fraud for other vulnerable people.
If they seem too good to be true, that's a red flag. The problem is by that time, you've been swept up.
It's easier probably for people to say, this looks too good to be true, this person looks too good to be true. I realise now that I was being slowly sort of brainwashed by professional criminals.
And you can find full statements from American Express and NAB on our website.
We talk to a lot of well-informed experts, so let's cross to someone who's happy to base his analysis on things he probably just dreamt up. Ross Noble joins us from his ISO bunker. How are you, mate?
Hi, I'm sad, to be honest with you. It's been a very sad week. The big sad news, I'm sure you'll agree, is the announcement that the factory that makes Segways is closing. Yeah. And that's been a deep personal sadness to me, because the guy that invented the Segway, not only did he die when he went off a cliff on a Segway, which is both tragic and hilarious at the same time. You know, he also said that at some point in the future, he thought the Segway was going to replace the car. And I think after this week, it's safe to say there's more likelihood of Kevin Spacey being the star of a remake of The Cosby Show than that. So it's and also this, look, I used to tweet pictures of people on Segways with a caption saying, "What a time to be alive." So, you know, it's just sad. It's just really sad.
Right, it is sad, Ross, but great to see you back in the bunker. How's it going?
Well, yes, I am. I said I wasn't going to do it anymore, but obviously, due to what's happened this week, this is the safest place to be. You know, I don't know if you're across this, but currently the country's going through what scientists call the Spice Girls paradigm.
Hang on, what's the Spice Girls paradigm?
Well, what that is everyone's trying really hard, but Victoria's ruining it for everyone. We nearly got rid of it. We nearly got rid of it, didn't we? It was like literally like I was on the. It's like when I'm on the phone to my mum and she goes, "All right, I'll let you go," and you just go, "Okay," and she goes, "Oh, did I tell you?" And, go, ah! And then slam the phone down, you know. And I know that's me being cruel about my relatives, but maybe if people were a bit more rude to their family, there wouldn't be as many family gatherings, and we would get the numbers down. Come on, be rude to your mum.
Ross, do you feel like people aren't taking the same precautions that they were?
Footy players spitting everywhere, tennis players just ignoring the rules. There's so many old people ignoring the rules down at my local hardware store. They might as well conga straight to the funeral home. It's ridiculous. Even the young people, right? Look at this. What example is this for the young people? Thomas the Tank Engine. Is that socially distanced? No. 2 minutes later, there he is. Look, he's pulling them. He's not wearing a mask. I'm fed up. So what I've done is I've built this, right? I'm going to go around and I'm going to do some puppet shows in order to spread the news that we need to get back on it. Play the music. Play the music.
You can't touch this. Touch this.
This is
I've been on my own for too long.
Thanks so much, Ross. Great to have a glimpse into the inner workings of your mind. I hope you recover from whatever malaise you're going through right now. It's been a real adventure, mate.
Take care.
Oh,
Stay safe,
fantastic
everyone.
stuff, Ross. And if you think that was funny, well, you need to get your eyeballs around tonight's Just for Laughs Montreal Comedy Festival special on Channel 10, featuring a bunch of Aussie comedians like Reece Nicholson, Nate Belvo, and our very own Peter Hellier, who's me. And there I am. It's right after MasterChef. It's a great night, and we need a laugh at the moment.
We do.
I hear that Pete Hellier is excellent. Thanks for joining us. See you later, Brownie, and we'll see you at 6:30 tomorrow night. Have a good one.